Well, hey ManCavians, this is Bob from DaBob's N-Scale ManCave, and today we're reviewing Kato's brand new SD70MAC locomotives in Alaska Railroad colors. It also comes out in BNSF, and you can get those as well. Check out Kato USA's website, and also your local retailers, local hobby shops, online, wherever you shop for your N-Scale products. So in this case, this is DC, and I'm going to put a decoder in it, and it takes the same decoder as any SD 40-2 decoder, and we'll put those in and get this thing running. Okay, the SD70MAC. This was made by Kato, and it's got a nose headlight version, which means the headlight is right here on the nose instead of up here between the number boards. They produced 1,000 of these units back in 1993, beginning in 93, to compete against the AC 4400 CW. Today, Alaska Railroad continues to operate these locomotives as its most prevalent engine. They own 28 active engines, and they use it to pull tourist and commuter trains on routes stretching from Seward up to Fairbanks, Alaska. Now, as you can see, we have some pretty good detail up here in the front for a Kato. The ditch lights down here. The headlights right there. I don't see any actually separately applied grab irons or anything like that. They're all molded into the body here in the cab. The number boards do not come installed. They're additional pieces along with some handrails that are up here in the front. And you get those pieces in a little package like this for that. Also in the package you get the instructions here in the bottom piece of the packaging here, and it tells you where the details are, how to replace the pilot coupler, which package contains the number boards, your handrails, and the MU hoses for the rear, and even a picture diagram of where to put them and install them and so forth, and also the magnetic trip pin adjustment. As you can see, you've got molded in MU hoses down here, the pilot coupler. Of course, the handrails aren't on there yet, but you can see it does have some windshield wipers molded into the windshield itself, so they're not really 3D enough to stay on the outside. So as you can see on the side, you got 4011 on the side here. You got some lettering up here. I'm not exactly sure what that says. Okay, here's a zoomed up of that name on there. It's called Spirit of Denali, which is Mount McKinley. That's the native name for Mount McKinley, is Denali, and so that's what they are calling it now. But as you can see, it has some pretty good detail right up close. Here, let's get it back in the light here. As from this point of view, I can see it's got some pretty good truck detail on there right now. Kind of surprising. Glad to see that there's a lot of detail on these trucks. Also have some extra details with the placards down here, some labeling. You can probably read those under some good magnification. Got a brake wheel back here at the back, handrails, and truck detail. These are kind of flimsy but stiff enough to handle your rough handling if you do have some of that with your kids or yourself. shouldn't break too easily. And here's the back. There should be a rear tail lights right up there above 4011. As you can see right in here, there's some holes on the side here to mount the MU hoses, which are in that little package. On this side we have basically the same, some placards down here and handrails. On the top we have PTC antennas, or antenna array, dynamic brake radiator fan right up here. It looks like some sort of hatch, raised hatch here. Not exactly sure what that is. Exhaust. You got the horns and your radiator fans right up here in the back. I kind of wish these were maybe a little more detailed. I have to look at the prototype pictures to see if they're painted or what kind of differences they might be. But overall, this is not a bad looking model, and I like it. It's going to fit real well in with my Alaska theme rolling stock, because I don't have anything other than E8s to pull my Alaska stock around. One other thing that I noticed is when you get up here close, you can see my fingers. We have the Alaska flag right here. We got the Big Dipper and the Northern Star right there, and those are on the Alaskan flag. So this basic area right here is the Alaska flag on that dark blue paint. And of course Spirit of Denali on this side as well. Let's see if you even got some grilling right there. Let's take a look and see if these are ribbed or not. Yep, that's they're raised. You can scratch it there. It's ribbed. This is as well. So not too bad for Kato on this version of the model. Let's take a look at an older version of the SD70MAC. Okay, this is one of the earlier versions of an SD70MAC that Kato came out with. This is the BNSF Heritage 2 paint scheme, number 9842. And it pretty much, based on what I've seen, looks exactly detail-wise as this new one. There might be some differences between the road names. Like these kind of look a little bit different right up in there than the other ones. The BNSF has a silver colored their radiator fans, and so it does seem to be different. As you can see, that does look. Actually, I like this better than the Alaska one. I don't know if the Alaska one is dark by prototype or not. There is no PTC antenna on this version. You still have to add in your number boards and your handrails and the rear MU hoses. But I was looking at truck detail, and they basically are the same trucks. I could not see any differences between the two when I was looking at them a little bit closer under a magnifying glass, and everything else looked the same as the new version. So I don't think they retooled hardly anything, if anything, on this locomotive. These handrails actually feel stiffer than the newer handrails on the Alaska one. Zoom in on the truck detail, and you can tell that the trucks are basically the same molded trucks with the same details. So there isn't any difference in the new version versus the old. Okay, here's a little trick on how to take the cab off. Many of you may not have realized this, or many of you have done this. This is an easy, quick way to get the cab cover off of your motor. You just kind of lay it in the jewel case, put the coupler end, this where the stairs are, right here on the edge, lift up just a little bit, and it releases the motor out of the body, just like that. And then you just wiggle it off, and this actually comes in a couple pieces, it looks like. There we go. Get the cab off. You just have to get it past some of these, like the motor clips here, motor contacts. All right. There we go. It's off. And there is your motor. This actually looks a lot cleaner than the older ones that I've seen. Got some screws here and some nuts to keep the two halves together. This does look like it was re-milled to be a more smoother and boxier look to it, so hopefully things fit better. Not sure, but it does look a lot cleaner than the older versions of these body frames and motor frames. And you can see the light pipe is right here. One light bulb up here blows light out the front of the nose, and also comes down to the ditch lights right here. You got to be careful with these. Sometimes the couplers will pop out of here, and you got to reassemble them, and not entirely fun. So be careful with these when you're taking the couplers off or taking this whole thing apart. Okay, I've got the decoder put in. Put Kapton tape underneath the front, as they suggested. Also, the main one really is needed underneath these engine clips, and I've also put some in the back as well, like the instructions kind of suggested. So it's in there, and I tested it, and it does run, so I am ready to put the cab back on. One note is when you take the cab off, you're going to get this bottom piece is probably going to come off as well, because this whole piece will hook onto the bottom of the engine clips on the decoder, and so these will kind of pry out a little bit and keep you from pulling that handrail section out. So when you take it off, it's going to come apart. You pull the top cab off, just pinch in the sides here a little bit, run your fingers down, lift up from the back, and it'll get past these motor clips, and off it comes. So pretty easy. When you put it back together, put the handrail section with the running boards, clip it back into position so that everything's in the right place. And I usually start from the back, line it up, slide it down into place, kind of push it forward to make sure it's all the way forward so that everything goes around the light pipes. Snap it down into place, and you are good to go. Let's go see how it runs. We're going to test the slow speed control with this Digitrax decoder DN163K1C. Pretty much standard for all those SD40-2 Phase 2 locomotives. So let's start off with one speed step going forward. And it jumps off pretty fast. 2, 3, 4, and 5. In reverse, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And it stops fairly fast. It's not a sound decoder. It doesn't have all that neat features that you may see in an ESU lock sound, but it does control your locomotive pretty smoothly. Let's go forward one more time, and that's just one speed step right there, and it's pretty slow moving. Let's take a look at the headlights. Turn them on, turn them off. There's no dimming function on this Digitrax decoder. And here's the tail light. Put it in reverse. It goes on. Put it in forward. Goes off. Put it in reverse. Turn the headlight off. It goes off. There you go, ManCavians. That's been my review of the Kato SD70MAC in the Alaska Railroad paint scheme. This is a pretty good locomotive. I've been waiting for some Alaska Railroad stuff to come back out from Kato. This is a re-release of the same locomotives. I believe they're different road numbers, but they look identical to the older version as I showed you with this BNSF. They look pretty much the same, had the same configuration. You know, you had to install your own number boards, handrails, and MU hoses on the back. One of the things I noticed was that when I put the two of them in a consist, the speed went way down. It just didn't respond. I don't know if that was partially my fault with having too many locomotives on my layout, but they work fine by themselves. And when I just consisted them, they wouldn't move until I got up to 20 speed steps, and it was just kind of weird. But you know, maybe you've run into that problem before, and I just haven't really noticed it with other consists that I've got. Another thing I noticed was that the Microtrains car that I had on the back of the locomotive, the trip pin would stick out too far and hook onto the snowplow, and thus basically when you try to go around a corner it would just push the car right off the rails because it just couldn't handle it. It was just being blocked. It couldn't move freely. So I just snipped a little bit off with a pair of diagonal cutters, made it a little bit shorter so it wouldn't touch the snowplow, and it pulled it around just fine. And it wasn't just, you know, the locomotive causing the problem, but something else. All in all, it's a very good locomotive, and hope you enjoyed this review. As always, ManCavians, happy model railroading, and you better stay off those tracks. Bye. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Check out these videos over here. Also click on the links down below to follow me on social media, and leave a comment. Tell me what you liked. And as always, ManCavians, happy model railroading, and stay off those tracks. Bye.